Or you've got to, find a way that really addresses the area because that's why to businesses we do that.
Yeah, it's not going back to the projector.
It's still looking for.
Oh, okay, so I should wait. It did, and then I thought tomorrow.
And was there
He's always going to these.
he's always had a serious not just for his cash.
If not, I brought paper.
You want to drive over here, just ask for the numbers and go, okay?
I didn't want to hold up and then not open on. My whole inbox goes to the world.
That's what's going on.
Please don't.
We're
just gonna turn it off. Yeah, I can't, oh, you can't get logged in. But I brought paper.
I had it all.
I'm sorry, and then I unplugged it, for a second. That's all that.
Well, we're missing a couple of soldiers here. Thank you. That's just fine.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have more selection coming? You're welcome. Paper?
Meeting order 6:07, please rise and allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't mean to be a fly in the item, but did a notice ever go out about you guys meeting today? Cause our meeting notice does not say budget
No, but
committee.
all our people were notified, but it didn't go out.
Right, but I'm concerned because if you're gonna vote, it needs.
We're not,
Oh, you're not?
no.
Oh, okay,
No,
then never mind.
we're voting on, the Monday, the 11th. Yeah.
Okay, I
and
just
separate meeting.
wanted to make sure we.
And I
Noticed
put
that
on first
properly.
with only 6 people on the committee, that we need 5 of them to do the vote. So we're planning to do that on the 11th, so you'll have it before the 19th. when you vote.
And Marty is here on,
Oh, okay, good.
Hey,
Marty. Good, thank you.
so you have 4. Okay, so I guess we're gonna start with Kim, school budget.
Yes. And I have 2 extra copies. I don't know if you guys want to share that here.
I'm totally gonna get thrown out.
Yeah.
I'll take one of these. I should probably do that.
Gotta fight that. Let's see what happens.
All right, guys, so, yeah, thanks. I wanted to present the Wiscasset School Department budget to you, and, this will sit. So I've given you the presentation. This is not the line item budget. This is the presentation that I shared with our school committee, a couple of weeks back in February. And there have been some adjustments since that date, not to the expense budget, but we had another loss in revenue, or revenue went down a little bit, so that adjusted the budget. So on the first page, you'll see the timeline to the adoption, timeline to the town vote. So basically, we count backwards from June 11th in our process. And we've already completed our budget workshops, which were held January 23rd and January 25th with the school committee. We did a school committee budget meeting on February 13th, where I reviewed the budget as it stands today. And then I'm presenting it to you all tonight on March 6th. The statute does not say that the school needs to present to the select board, but it does say that the school needs to present the full budget to the people 7 days before our meeting. And so our meeting is not in 7 days, but I'm presenting it to you here, and then in this way, hopefully reaching out to a larger audience in the town of Wiscasset so they can see where we are. So we are most likely going to vote, the school committee will vote on this budget at their next meeting, which is next Tuesday, March 12th. And then we will hold a budget meeting. So we have a 2-step budget process, which is covered by statute. And the first part of that process is it's called the regional budget meeting. It's because we follow what RSUs do. It would be a budget meeting in person for folks to come. It will be held in the high school gym. It has to be no more than 45 days before the town meeting vote, which is June 11th. So it'll be sometime 45 days before June 11th, but after March 12th. So it'll be in May. We're gonna plan it for May. And that's when everyone comes together in town and has an opportunity to look at each one of the cost centers. There are 11 cost centers that we vote on for the budget. And then the amount that's approved at that meeting goes forward to the town on June 11th. And it's a simple yes or no vote, and the vote will be written. This isn't exactly word for word, but it's something like, do you agree with the vote or the school budget amount that was adopted at the regional budget meeting on insert date? Yes or no? It won't even have that amount. It's just a yes or no vote at that budget. So that's the process. Every 3 years, we vote on that process as a town and whether we would like to continue doing it. If we should vote to not continue doing it, then what happens is we only have the regional budget meeting, which means that the town won't have the opportunity to vote on the school budget at the town meeting date. So I think it's probably a good idea that we keep the 2-step process as long as the law is what it is, because probably 7 to 10 people go to that budget meeting who don't work for the school. So it's pretty low attendance at the budget meeting.
And we renewed that 3 years.
We just did.
Last June, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the bottom line, and to expenses, it's a 2.44% increase to total expenses. That's not the increase to the local taxpayer because we did lose revenue from the state this year. So you'll see when we get to that page that there's an increase to taxpayers of a little over 6%. But our increase in expenses is just 2.44%, which I'm told is that we're doing the best right now in the whole state. There's a big spreadsheet of all the business managers sharing their increases and their impact on taxes, and we have the lowest increase to expenses so far. So that's pretty good. Budget highlights. All right, so this year we are creating a district-wide assistant principal position who is going to work in both schools, the elementary school and the middle high school. We currently have an assistant principal / athletic director position in the middle high school. We're going to eliminate that position and replace it with a district-wide, and their focus will be on student supports, and they'll work between the two schools. So that's a little different. We are adding a general education social worker position. That would be a full-time social worker who would be shared between the two schools. We currently have a social worker who is designated for special education only, but he does have 5 hours a week that he can bill to general education, and we need that time plus some. So we're gonna add a social worker here. We have moved finance, technology, and student support ed tech positions from grant funds into our local budget. So we have received millions of dollars in COVID money over the past 4 years, and there have been a lot of positions that were covered by those grants that are being shifted into the local budget. Another one that's not listed here is the school resource officer. We've been paying $60,000 per year for a full-time school resource officer, and out of the grant money, for next year we're proposing $30,000 to cover the costs of a half-time school resource officer at the school. We also we created an athletic director stipend position, which replaces the AD admin position. So rather than having an AD AP, we're going to have a stipend, which is $15,000 for someone who will just manage athletics. And we increased our teacher salaries roughly 7% in the aggregate, as this is year 2 of a 3-year salary increase. We replaced an Ed Tech 2 with a technology stipend with a IT coordinator position, which we desperately need. We don't have a centralized information technology department, but we have a couple of ed techs who do some tech stuff, and we have some outside people. So that's going to be pretty great, I hope. And then we've also created another new position, which is a tech integrator / media center person, and they would work full-time out of the Wiscasset Middle High School Library.
On the ed tech positions that are going from grant funds to local budget, where were they local budget before COVID, or did they not exist, or?
They were, some of them did not exist, and some of them were local budget before COVID. Yeah. A lot has changed since COVID. So it's like, I wasn't in this position at that time, so it's hard to give you a full-on comparison. All right, the next page are our cost center allocations. So there are 11 cost centers. Before you now, you'll see 9. What is not included is CTE, career and technology education. That's because the state used to bill for career and technology education through the local schools, and now what they do is they bill directly to the tech center. So where we used to raise money and pay it to Bath Folk, now Bath Folk just gets their money directly from the state. And the other thing is debt service. We don't have debt service. So you don't see that there. Student and staff support. has gone up 5.63%. System administration has gone down 6.64% or 35,000. School administration has gone down 2.32% or 12,890. Facilities is up 1.73%. Transportation is up 3.43%. Regular instruction is up 1.94%. Special education is up 8.44%. Food service is down. It's a big percentage. It's only $10,000. And other instruction, total other instruction, these are co-curriculars, athletics, that type of thing, is down 34,992 or 8.46%. Then you'll see we did something that changed from the last time I met with the school committee and the budget guys were there too. Adult ed, we were raising $13,000 for adult ed. We took that out of our budget because in our undesignated, or in our fund balance, we have designated funds for adult ed. So in our fund balance, we have $18,000 that we've already raised and had approved for adult education that we haven't spent from the past 2 years. So we're not going to raise $13,000 this year. We're going to have $13,000 available for them out of the fund balance. Do you guys have questions about what all those cost centers are? It's the biggest thing is salaries for teaching staff, and that's what you're looking at in regular ed. It's a lot of salaries. Special ed has costs that are kind of out of our control. We did increase the budget. We are out of district placements are increased, and hopefully we won't need all of that money, but all right, so state subsidy revenue. This is just a little information.
Before you move on, one question about special education. What percentage of that does the state pay out?
Well,
like a 2-year, is it still like a 2-year backlog before the school gets?
if there is a backlog before you get funding back, and there's not one simple answer. There are different reimbursement amounts for different types of special ed costs.
Okay.
So there's a rate for high cost out of district placements.
Mm-hmm.
None of it's 100%. You don't get paid back 100%. So, but more than that, I can't really tell you.
Yeah, okay. So what you have in here is the total cost for the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the total budgeted amount. Yep.
Okay. And you have in your revenues, do you have what you anticipate receiving from the state
Yes.
this year? Okay.
Yeah, and we're about to get to that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the state subsidy revenue, this is just the next page, just gives you a sense of how revenue is, this doesn't really even touch on how revenue is figured out, but it's the essential programs and services model system that the state uses. It's the ED 279. Anybody can look this up on Maine DOE at any time, and you can see every school district in the state and every fiscal year, and look through the documents, and it gives you information like student counts and teacher counts and numbers of librarians, and it's information that's helpful if you are at all interested in comparing how Wiscasset looks next to Booth Bay or how Wiscasset looks next to Morse. So it's a fun form. Okay, subsidy, these are our subsidy amounts over the past 10 years. And while amounts are up over 10 years, they're down from last year. So the bottom line is 2025, they're gonna give us $2,216,728, which is down. That's the cut in our revenue that we're experiencing. From last year, we got 2.555 million, which was up from the year before. The funding formula is not simple. It's a 7-page calculation. I kind of wish that Ed Polvarchik was here because he is on the education committee in Augusta, and that's their focus. You could probably school us all on EPS right now, and changes that they're trying to make to it. Some people have the opinion that the EPS formula is less fair to smaller communities that have less money, so. Okay, the next page is the revenue sheet. This is like where it's probably what you're most interested in. So the top line, I apologize that the column headings aren't there. The first column is 2024. The next column is 2025 proposed. And then the third column is the difference. So our subsidy for 2025 proposed is $2.216 or $2,216,720. It's down $342,000. And there is a correction that needs to be made to the subsidy. And so when at our last meeting, I was estimating that correction would be $206,000 in our favor. And the state has since emailed me that the correction will be $147,549, which is why we had gone from a 5.4% increase to 6.12 is that difference. Tuition, we increased by $5,000. I'm hoping to see that number climb more and more each year. Special ed tuition, we increased by just $15,000. Interest, we increased by $10,500. Fund balance, this is the amount that we're planning to take out of our fund balance to offset taxes as it stands right now. We had the same amount plugged in there last year, so as of the close of last year, the fund balance was close to $2 million. It was 1.9 million, and the reason I keep saying that we're around 1.3, or I keep saying between 1.2 and 1.4 million, is because we taxpayers designated a draw of $600,000 from last year's fund balance to offset this year's taxes, but that's if we need it. And so far, we're looking like we're gonna be adding to our fund balance by the end of the year. So we look at it each month, but we're running ahead of where we should be. That's the right way to phrase it. We're doing better than we're doing better at this time this year than we were at this time last year, which is good. All right.
In terms of revenue or expenses?
Expenses, in terms of expenses. Yeah, and that was with a pretty hefty salary increase as well. So we're just watching every single penny and being really careful, and yeah, so that's where we are. Okay, bus operations and repairs, that's $40,000. I don't know if you guys are aware, but our garage services other people's buses. So we do work on other school districts' buses. They bring them to Wiscasset and we service them, and it's a revenue source for us. SHREP, that's the Sheepshead Regional Education Program. That's the behavior program that we are a member of. It's a regional program. It lives in the back parking lot of our school, and they should be paying us rent and utilities. So we haven't charged them for rent and utilities in probably 4 years, but we did this year. We put it on for this year, although it wasn't budgeted, and we will next year too, in the amount of $23,000. So the total revenues there dropped 3.61%. Next, you see the required local and additional local. These numbers are required local, you have to raise by law. The state says you must do that. Additional local is all the money that we need to raise above the EPS formula, above what the state requires in order to cover the cost of education. And the increase in additional local is $322,000, sorry. You see, I cut the adult ed. We're not really cutting adult ed. And in fact, just as a side note, we're going to be expanding adult ed because somewhere along the line, Wiscasset ended up partnering with Morse, who then turned it over to Merry Meeting, which is in Topsom, for adult ed, and they do very little out of our site. But there's a demand for our site from our neighbors, both to the north and out on the peninsula. So we will be talking next year to create a regional adult ed program, which will be RSU 12 Booth Bay Wiscasset. And we have agreed that for next year, we're gonna hold our 13,000 that was earmarked for Merry Meeting, and we're gonna use it for the, it's also RSU 40. RSU 40 and RSU 12 have a partnership, so they're gonna join together with us and Booth Bay. For next year though, we're gonna allow it's the same teacher. She's the same director, but she's working for all the districts. We're gonna allow her to work out of our space because it's centrally located. And for instance, this summer, they're planning to do a school bus driver training course in Wiscasset. And I'm smiling because we all need commercial driver's license people. So that's really exciting. I'm hoping we can get at least one bus driver. All right, and so that brings us down to that 6.12%. That is the total increase. And that's the cut in revenue plus the increase in expenses. So that's where we're at for local taxation at this point. Mill rate impact from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25. This is the mill rate for education, and it is down slightly. And I hope no one has a lot of detailed questions about that.
Yeah, because actually the property values are low, so, because we factored up all of our properties last year, so.
I can tell you that this comes off the 279, so this is what the state is basing it on, and their numbers. Yeah, well, yeah, because that would be good to know. All right, enrollment trends. Enrollment is down a little bit each year. So you can see in the graph where we were in 2015 to where we are in 2025, our student count does drop a bit each year. And I put it out there because people talk about it and it's not a secret, it's a thing. And you know, we have to face it, right? We can't fix it if we don't face it. So there's the enrollment trends. The next one is probably my least favorite slide, but I'm putting it out there because people talk about it. It's the cost per pupil and where we are estimated for fiscal year 25. The per pupil cost is close to 25,000. In fiscal year 18, it was about 18,000. And the way that we reduce that is by putting more kids into our school. And so we could absorb up to 100 students in grades 9 to 12 without changing anything, just bringing them on board. And so where do we get these students, you ask? Well, all of our neighbors have school choice. And all of our neighbors are looking for new partners. And we're the people who are centrally located. So if you look at the last slide, you'll see our recruitment team. For the first time ever, we have a real recruitment effort that's happening. That's a great group of seniors, plus a couple of staff members who've been around for a long time. And we have been to 6 of our neighboring middle schools and talked to their 8th grades and told them why they should come to Wiscasset because all these kids do have a choice. And so we're inviting them to come. Adults didn't really do the talking. We left it to our kids, and every one of those kids had a good reason, you know, to share why other kids should think about coming to Wiscasset. They've all had a positive experience there. They're all graduating this year, and they're going into either the workforce or to college, and they each provided a different perspective to the kids that we were visiting about all of the great things that a small school like Wiscasset can offer. And one of the best things for our difference in RSU 12 is they run a bus, and we are the only school that RSU 12 runs a bus too, so that's in our benefit. And that concludes my presentation.
Just a quick ballpark figure on a tuition student, what would that bring in?
The tuition rate is about $12,000. So, and we have, I think this year we've got 64 kids who are attending and paying tuition, and they don't all come from RSU 12. We have, in fact, I was just looking at it today in anticipation about questions about tuition students. And we have kids who are coming from Woolwich, we have kids who are coming from Edgecombe, and that's basically it. Woolwich, Edgecombe, and then Whitefield, Westport Island, Alda, maybe Chelsea. Maybe one from Windsor.
If they give us 12,000 in tuition, we're paying 12,000 out of our pocket for them too?
No, that means, so they get their, we do tuition billing, and the district where they reside, gets the subsidy, and then we send them a bill, and they send us the payment.
But in terms of per pupil cost, does the math end up being, we're covering the difference? Because we're not getting 24,000.
Right, that's right.
So.
The state doesn't pay, the tuition is the state rate, and the state does not pay the cost of education to anyone.
Right, so to speak to that is, the other way to look at it is you're gonna be spending this much for that education that's going on in the building, and every student you bring in is $12,000 to help pay for those services and classes.
Right.
So they're not paying the full price of what it costs per student, but if they weren't there, the cost per student would be
Higher.
yes.
So in other words, we're subsidizing the people coming in.
Well, we're subsidizing everyone.
You're
But
subsidizing.
the costs are not going up
The
by,
costs don't go up,
Right,
but everyone is subsidizing education because the state does not cover 100%. They don't give you tuition for the cost of education.
What I'm saying is a student comes in
Yeah.
and we get $12,000, but we're kicking in another $12,000 out of our tax.
Well,
No.
technically you're both right
you know,
in a way, because they're not paying the full per pupil cost.
Right.
But hopefully the per pupil cost is going down slightly the more students you get in. So
Exactly.
it's not 12,000, but it's also not a wash.
right, it's not a wash, but what it is you have a 5th grade math class, and you can teach that to 5 kids from Wisconsin, you can teach it to 5 kids from Wisconsin and 4 kids from Edgecombe.
Or you teach 5 kids or 20 kids for the same amount of money.
Exactly,
But we're absorbing the excess capacity if we bring somebody else in.
there's a good way to say it.
It's the low hanging fruit, and I've always felt that way, and it's
Oh,
why I ran for a school board so many years ago, or a select board so many years ago, to kind of change the narrative. If we told everybody and their brother that we've got the best schools, send your kids here, and they did, all of our neighbors with school choice, it would lower the cost of education for all of us. It would reduce the cost to the local taxpayer.
Tom?
Can I just ask you to comment on where we're headed with special ed? And I don't want the question to be interpreted wrongly. I mean, we're doing it because it's an important thing to do, and it's also state mandated for us to do a proper job of it for these kids that need it. So I'm not questioning that it's an important thing to do, but it's special ed and transportation is like 90% of the increase.
Yeah.
Is that something that is gonna keep going in that direction in the future? And is there other things that we can do? Because I know you transport a lot of these special ed kids all over the place at a significant cost. I mean, that's one of the things I learned in the meetings with you.
Yeah.
What can we do to kind of manage this? Is there anything, or is it just, look, this is what it costs and it's gonna keep costing?
No, there are things we can do, but the question is, do we want to do them? So like, for instance, the SHREP program that's out, that we have here. It is, that's a partnership, it's a membership. It's RSU 1, Wiscasset, RSU 12, we are the members, and then other people can send their kids. It's for kids who are no longer able to be in the regular ed classroom, but instead of sending them someplace really far away, they're here. And that saves us a ton of money because so we pay $22,000 to be a member, and then, no, it's $29,000 to be a member, but then it's only $22,000 tuition for each one of the kids that we have there. And that's much less than if we were sending one of those kids to Saco, and their transportation alone would be $61,000, right? We have a kid now and transportation alone is $61,000. If we could bring that kid back.
Yeah.
We don't have the services to bring every kid back right now, but there is a change that's happening. And it's not final yet, but it looks like it's really going to be. I don't remember the number, it's LD something, but the state is transferring the obligation for special needs students age 0 to 3 to the local districts. And so that's gonna be, that could be a really heavy hit. So we're already talking now about creating a program that's like SHREP for these little children, because these are little kids who are identified by state caseworkers and need to go to special schools. And there aren't many of them, and they're not near here. And I think because the state is struggling, they're trying a different solution, which is going to be to give it to local school districts to deal with.
So is this 200K, 9% increase kind of, is that what is this like a one-time bad picture, or do you think that's gonna be it's gonna keep going up like this next couple of years? That's kind of my question, because if you didn't have that, you'd be breaking even comfortably.
Yeah.
On your budget.
If we could work with our partners and our regional partners to increase the ability to have more kids at the SHREP program, we could lower those funds. That's something we can do. And I think it's something we all want to do because RSU 1's doing the same thing that we're doing, RSU 12. Booth Bay is not a member, and so the tuition for non-members is close to $70,000 that they're paying us. We're all sort of dealing with the same thing. One thing that is a current concern are the little kids that birth to age 3, because we have no infrastructure in place for children of that age. We start at pre-K. We have a 4-year-old program, but we have nothing, none of us do. So luckily we have the Sheepscott Regional Education Program, and so that structure already exists, and we're going to create a regionalized program for adult ed with the same partners plus RSU 40, which is Waldoboro. So I'm thinking it would make sense to move in that direction. It would save all of us money.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just want to clarify, so it's a 2.44% increase in your budget, but ultimately it's a 6.12 increase in what?
Because our revenue went down.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Yeah, just a question, is it ethical or whatever, when you look at a new high school student come in, that if they come in under a special ed or a special needs, it's big money. Can you say we don't want you?
We can not say we don't want you to some students. So if you're an RSU 12 kid, we need to accept you no matter what, because of the withdrawal agreement with RSU 12. However, I have a really good relationship now with the superintendent of RSU 12, and we've had conversations about exactly this situation. If you are a student from Edgecombe and you have really high needs and you come in, we wouldn't say we don't want you, but we could say we don't have the services that you need, so you should try which is the case sometimes. But with a, you
But is
know,
that a no? I didn't quite hear that.
it's not
I don't
really,
know.
yeah, it's,
I don't want you, but you're here.
I mean, if there was any kid in Wiscasset, we would have to educate them, right? Any Wiscasset student, any RSU 12 student, we have to educate them. Anybody else, we don't have to.
Okay, so is there gonna be a vetting process for the tuition students that?
We are not talking about vetting tuition students, we're just recruiting left and right. And then, but obviously, we wouldn't bring kids to our district that we weren't able to serve.
But serving of a senator in Saco at 100,000.
Exactly,
That's
so if
serving.
you were from Newcastle or Edgecombe, or Woolwich, I don't think it wouldn't make sense for us to do that. If you were from RSU 12, then we would have to do that.
I hear that part. It's the other optional ones that I'm
Yeah,
trying to understand.
it
Because,
hasn't come up, so I don't have like
no,
a,
but I mean, if you.
in my short tenure.
Just the mathematics of it, you know, one Saco student defeats the purpose of 6 or 7 other students
So
in terms of a, yeah.
just to clarify, so if a student that is not Wiscasset and not RSU 12 wanted to come here and you did not have the services for them, their hometown would be responsible for sending them to wherever.
Yeah.
We would not be responsible for sending them, even though we have other students from those towns. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
And
Just
that would
wanted to
be
make sure
something
that's
that
what I heard.
superintendents would discuss like on a case-by-case basis. And for something like that, it would actually be special ed directors would discuss on a
Yeah.
case-by-case
Yeah, it's
basis.
just, that's kind of what I was hearing, but I wanted to make sure that's what he was saying, so.
Yeah, just like Morse doesn't have to accept every kid that wants to go there. Lincoln Academy doesn't have to accept every kid that wants to go there who's not in their district. Lincoln can accept or not accept anybody wherever they live. But Morse, you know, they can choose if they want to let Wiscasset kids in,
Right.
right?
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any other questions for Kim?
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome, thanks.
And thank you for the printout. It's easy to make the notes on.
And it's on the website, it's on my website.
Oh,
Full disclosure, this very updated one needs to get on my website. Right, but it will be there. And so will the line item budget. So if people want to look line for line and see. that's fine too. And our finance committee meets on the Tuesdays before our board meetings at 5 o'clock. You're welcome to come and look at our monthly budget actuals.
what days do they meet?
On school board meetings night, so it's second Tuesdays at 5 p.m. in the central office.
Oh, okay, just,
How many, I'm so sorry, this just happened to my mind. How many students we have in the high school who are from another town?
Another town? I think it's I forget, it's either 64 or 68.
68.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
and how many are Wisconsin students?
Within the middle high school, we have about 225 right now. So do the 225 minus the 68 who are non-Wisconsin
Thank you.
students. Yeah.
64, 68 is middle high. How many for 9s and 12?
No, that's the middle high, so that's 65.
Right, but she's asking how many just high schools.
Just high school.
Are non-Wisconsin.
Or do we know?
Residents.
I can't tell you right now. I can tell you in a couple minutes. Okay. I don't know that off I think of the whole building and I know what we bill for tuition. Of course we do. Okay.
Thank you.
Here.
Right. Anything you wanted to say about any of the updated ones first?
No, I just want to make sure that everybody has the updated municipal insurance budget, which we had to add a line to the FMLA, which is the 1% payroll tax for paying for 12 weeks of medical leave, And everybody should have updated county tax. I did get word from Michelle. They haven't done their commitment yet. But she did say it would be a 6.45% increase over last year, so that's what I factored it in as. So that's a little less than what I had started out with, because their budget was up 9%, so I started at 9%. So, but they're using some of their fund balance to offset some of that.
And that's all updated here, it looks like, correct? So we can vote off this sheet.
Yeah.
So in terms of, next steps, in terms of what we need to do, my understanding is we probably need some more discussion on capital items, community organizations, and then we obviously need to go through and we have to vote for all of them. So one of the things we might want to do tonight is go through and vote for any of the ones that are, I'm gonna say easy for lack of a better word, in terms of they're ones we have to pay or we have no more questions on, that kind of thing, to just get them out of the way in terms of on the ballot. So we can do that if we want to tonight.
I do have, and I've given each of you a letter from St. Philip's asking to increase their donation from the town food pantry from $1,000 to $3,000, and that has not been updated on your spreadsheets.
That's, is that the same food pantry that's on here?
Those are the two food pantries, they each get $1,000 a piece.
Oh, okay, so we're going from 2,000
we
to
would up
4?
that by $2,000.
Okay, so thank you.
We also have most of the department heads either online or here in person, so if we have questions on those specific budgets, we can also do that. I don't know if you folks have a preference on which we tackle first.
Yeah,
Sure.
one more comment. And that was some of the budget committee members on Monday. They got three people there. There was not a lot of concern expressed about most of the budgets. One of them was EMS. I did spend the last couple of days going through the EMS budget pretty carefully, and I can't find any place that I can cut anything out of there without reducing the level of service that we get. And we did have that discussion at the budget committee meeting the other day, that a lot of that budget is personnel. It's what we would refer to as the cost of readiness. It's having somebody here 24 hours, 7 days a week. The only place that really can have any meaningful cut will come out of labor costs, which means we either have to cut the hours that people are here or not have a paramedic on all of the time, which doesn't really save us a whole lot of money, because when we need a paramedic, then we have to pay one of the other towns for one to come over here. So I don't know where I would cut from that to satisfy the concerns that they might have. The other one was the Parks and Rec budget. You know, it is the biggest budget that we have. Again, if we start making cuts with Parks and Rec, we're going to have to start cutting some of the programs that we offer up there, which is going to cut into the revenue that we're getting. Is it going to be $1 for $1, 50 cents for $1? I'm not sure there's any way to actually quantify if we cut $100,000 out of the budget that we're not going to lose $120,000 in revenue. I don't know how to do that, because I don't think, and Dwayne's on, he can chime in. I don't think we can get a full appreciation of, if we cut programs, how many memberships are we going to lose, how much revenue are we going to lose for that particular program. It would be kind of hard to quantify that. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Was there something else? Was there other?
I would say, the people that were there that asked about EMS, I think it was just concern about the cost. I don't think that there was any, I hope you didn't feel any pressure to reduce services. I think people generally walked away agreeing with you, what you just said. So I don't think there was any pressure on that. I think most of the other department budgets, we didn't have a lot of concerns on. I think a couple of us did have concern about just the trajectory on Parks and Rec. You know, it's different than police, EMS, and fire, and not being public safety related, and it's growing. It's still growing at a rate, you know. And we talked about this the last couple of years, and it's still kind of doing that. So I think like you said, in all of these cases where, I mean, you've pretty much got 7 departments that are all of the increase, right? You got all the public safety ones, you've got county tax you can't do anything about, you've got the contractual services is mostly legal and audit. So a lot of them you can't do anything about. But, I mean, that Parks and Rec does kind of stick out like a sore thumb in the context of an overall increase that's a large number. So I think we're just looking for potential deeper thinking, continuing to consider whether the expansion in programs that we've had over the last few years, whether we still need all that, I think anytime you look at cost cuts, it's hard to say with certainty exactly what will happen in the future in terms of people leaving, but you do have a fees issue, fees went up last year a little. They're still way below market rates. So I don't think anybody was imposing specific solutions, but it's something we got to continue to look at. Because if you're, we asked for 104K more last year, 104K more this year, the net's 40, like you said, but still that's a lot every year. And so it's not to criticize you or Dwayne or anybody else. It's just to say, geez, if we keep doing that, you end up in a bad place in a couple of years from now.
I didn't take it
That's
as,
all.
I didn't take it as a criticism. I certainly didn't take it as a mandate, but I had to go back and try to find something. But I did take.
Well, thank you for doing it.
And say, is there any place in here that we can do something there, and just particularly with EMS. And as I did say the other night, and I'll repeat for everybody else's benefit here today, we've had some steep costs, particularly increases, particularly in public safety in the last couple of years, that I do expect to ease off a little bit. The demand, and it's still there. I mean, there's still talk of bigger increases in EMS and police pay on the other end of the county, because Knox County is looking to increase their wages for deputies, and Walboro PD is down. It's the pressure is still there, but I don't think you'll see these huge spikes. I think it will start to level off over the next couple of budgets. And again, we can't discuss PD tonight. We're still working on union contracts. I don't know what that's going to land. I have some idea, and I'll just leave it at that.
Dennis, in that context then, for our meeting on Monday when we do the votes, and you're still planning to vote on the 19th, should we vote on police, or should we kick the can down the road on that?
I would wait on that until I can get, something. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give away our own bargaining position.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so we'll just table that until we have it on
that. I'm not even planning to bring it up here tonight.
Got it.
So.
Okay. I'll propose that we start with capital, go through those.
So I was gonna mention, if you have department heads here, should we let them ask them questions so they can move on, but.
Well, I thought that as part of, since most of these apply.
Okay.
So we have an updated capital sheet.
So I updated your capital sheet. You all should have it if you don't have extra copies. To basically, it includes all of the requests. So when you look at the last page, you see
Big sheet, yeah, I didn't even get mine, I kind of knitted it out on here.
So on the last page, you look down to the FY25.
Circled all the ones that are actually still live issues.
The entire capital request, including what the school is requesting for payment, is just a little over $1.8 million. Okay. So, 111,000 of that is what we think would be the town's portion to upgrade the generator here, the generator at the community center, and 4 more pump station generators. So that's about 25% of the total cost. If you get a FEMA grant for these, they'll pay 75%, we'll pay 25%. So that 111,000 may come out, and it may not come out, because we might get 1 generator, we might not get any, we might get all 4.
So you're saying right now that is part of the 1.8?
So that is part of the 1.8. And then we've already talked about the community center sign in a previous meeting where we think we can fund that elsewhere. The 401,826 is for the fly car, 2 cruisers, and the trash trailer for transfer station. Where this amount includes Larry's request for 3 cruisers, but we're not gonna do that, we're only gonna do 2. But that's the total amount. So whether we do 2 or we do 3, at least the trash trailer will come out of a loan so that Ulna and Westport Island pay their share of that. So that's backed out of there. And I have proposed and continue to propose that the cruisers and the fly car go in the municipal budget as leases. So that backs that up. So that takes the entire 401,000 out of the 1.8 million. Repairing the tennis courts, again, I think we could probably find that within our existing budgets or in-kind contributions, or we could figure that out. So of that 1.8 million, you deduct that 486,826. That leaves us with a total withdrawal of $1,335,000. Which shows in your column to the left there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dennis, have you taken out the portion and paid back from school on the paving?
No, because I don't know what that is yet. So this could be less. We should have asked her when she was here, and I didn't think of it at the time. And so, you know, our policy is that, you know, we don't take more than 4.5% of what the investment is at the time. So at our current investment of the date of this, which was $11,700,000, for a maximum 4.5% is $526,756. So you can see we're about $808,000 more than what we should be taking out of it by our policy.
So in terms of the school part, I am definitely in favor of us going out to bid together. I think most people were in agreement of that part. I'm 100% against paying for it.
Right.
Even I understand left pocket, right pocket, but I don't believe we've ever.
You have to see where the cost goes.
Yeah, so
And we discussed that last week, that we would.
There it is.
The payment.
we talked about it, yeah. So that takes out what?
332,000.
Yeah.
So what I got in terms of the things we actually have left in, we have 3 generators for 111K, wastewater pump station for 116, town roads $500,000, community center paving 120, and the bond payment. So those items all add up to $1,002,702, so just over $1 million.
Whatever you did for math, I believe you.
It's correct. So that's not including the school. So we're talking $1,002,702. So that works, because that's less that school amount that you have there. So, okay.
You say the schools portion of the paving is 332?
The total amount is 332,000. So if you're taking the total amount out, which I think he
That's
just
what I just
did,
did, yeah.
then it takes you down to just over $1 million.
Just over $1 million.
If you're talking about doing half, then we'll have to add that back into whatever Tom just did.
Are you suggesting not paving?
My understanding walking out of here the other night was that we were going to, so I can only speak for myself, we haven't voted on it. I'm in favor of all these items except for the school paving, but we said we were gonna include the school paving in an RFP so we get a better overall rate. And
And they
No.
will pay their own.
it sounds like you're suggesting,
No, I'm just putting it in
There are
to
options
show you
there.
what it is.
but.
You guys can do whatever you want with it.
I also think it's important to keep them separate, even though the taxpayer is paying for it in the end, because of our policy that we need to get closer to following
Right,
in terms of the 4.5%.
So they're, off the top of my head, that'd be like 25% for school, wouldn't it? Roughly,
25% of what?
the cost of the paving.
No.
What?
What,
Well, so you're looking at what,
The
629.
25%, the total cost of the paving is $332,000.
For the school, yeah.
For the
Just,
school.
that's just the school.
That's just the
Oh, that's the school.
And it's $500,000 for us.
No, so our paving costs between roads and the community center are the top two, 500,000 for roads and 120 for the community center. Which is 620,000.
All right, so you got 332 you take out.
So you're not gonna pay for the school when it's 300.
So your then total withdrawal would be 1,002,000.
Correct.
Correct.
$1,002,000 taken out. And the discussion at the last meeting on the budget, when John Mary was here, he and I both agreed, looking back in history, of how those things were done, is that, the school always paid for their own bill because, the town long ago decided that people wanted to know the full cost of having the school in the building. Well, the parking lot is part of the cost of having it in.
It's like they incorporated
town.
and divided up until who's responsible for it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's, and again, it's your left pocket paying or your right pocket paying. But,
That's not the
Kim just
point.
sat here and told us that their fund balance is so healthy.
Yeah, they got a
Why
couple
are we
million
taking
dollars.
a school expense out of our fund balance? Out of the town fund balance? It should come out of the school fund balance.
Right, we've already described that.
Right.
So I think we're all on board with taking that out. So, yes, I don't know about.
I would agree to taking it out myself.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we have to all agree, but I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense.
My initial argument was that if we lump all three together,
But
do we
they
get a
just-
better price?
Well, we
Yes.
That's fine, we're doing
And
that.
then
We'll still do
then
that.
internally break it out and charge the school their.
Yes.
They'll get bills for their section, we'll still.
I just don't want us using ours.
I know what you're saying.
We want to show who's spending the money.
Exactly.
Okay, can I ask real quick, can we just go through and confirm which things we're actually talking about for capital, because things have changed so much now? Can we just go through, and just say each item?
So what's coming out of the capital is really just basically what you see on the last page colored in peach. It is 116,000 for the pump stations. The paving, 500, 120, the bond payment, and the 111,000 for the generators.
So, wait, oh, yes, yeah, correct. That's correct. That's all of it.
Okay?
Any other,
So what's that make our total withdrawal?
what do you say, 1,000,002?
1,002,000,
1,002,000.
702.
Right.
Any other discussion on any of those?
So that takes you, so. That's about 476,000 over about what we should
476.
be taking out.
Better. Not great, but.
But, you know, it's like what we discussed last time, if you could hit it, if you didn't do $500,000 of paving, which is gonna cost you probably twice that 3 years from now, so.
And we are getting caught up.
Right.
We are. It does not feel like it because the last 2 or 3 years, we've taken a substantial amount out, but, you know, we just bought 2 new fire trucks that we're gonna get 30 years out of. You know, we're getting the roads paved, getting the generators replaced, and we'll get a long time out of these generators because we, you know, they really don't get used that much. So we are making progress.
And just
It's
to the,
discouraging.
one other comment, not to kill the agenda here, but when we did that capital plan that you kind of led us through 2 years ago, mapped out 3 years of capital, because we had a backlog of stuff that had been kicked down the road and hadn't been done. 2 million the first year, million the second year. We're right on that plan.
Yeah.
You know, it's exactly what we
Right in here.
came up with 2 years ago.
Yeah, because this is it. This was the plan.
That was the
About
plan.
2 years ago, so that's why it's on these big sheets.
I mean, in hearing that the school's got $1.5 million in the kitty someplace, cannot not be accessed to cover this and keep it down at the 4 point?
No,
No.
Why not? I mean,
the school funds are appropriated for the school, we can't, they can use them, their surplus to offset the taxes, but we can't take it back from them.
So for the same reason that I just said, let the school pay for their own paving, because it's a school, these other things are town property. The school doesn't own the community center, why should they pay for a generator?
but at the same time, we're asking the taxpayer to come up with, 6-7% increase at the school budget, and they've got a kitty sitting in the bank. Why is it?
Well, let's remember, they're using 600,000 of that already. To make that a 6% increase, and not.
That's exactly, which also needs to be considered that this,
And they can't run their fund balance to zero, they need some operating money in case things
but
go
1.4 is a lot
sideways.
operational.
And I do believe that they need some of that fund balance for the balance on that elevator that's going in and down at the school. To get your point,
Well, I just, it's just,
you know,
hey,
I get your point.
little taxpayer relief for money just sitting in the pot.
The other thing is that the town has a policy on what we draw out of our fund balance for a reason. We can't expect the school to say, well, if you're only gonna pay pull 4.5, why are you asking us to pull 10? Lot 110.
Because-
Well, I know, lot 110.
Well, because I think in the school balance, just a safety valve in case they hit some expenses. But
Well,
that safety
no.
valve is very large amount of money.
No, that's not all a fund balance does. A fund balance also gives you operating expenses for 3 to 4 months when the taxes aren't paid on time and the income hasn't come in. So they can run off of what's in their fund balance until their revenues show up, and then they put it back in the fund balance for the next time they're gonna do it. That's part of what you use a fund balance for. It's like your savings account on the side. Oh my God, the hot water tank blew up. You pull that out and then you save back in.
Gotcha, but
So if you put that in a personal.
but if it was voted down, isn't there an automatic measure that they get funded for 3 months?
The school,
Yeah,
if it's voted down, it automatically reverts to last year's budget.
right,
And
so
it
I mean,
stays
it's
at
not like they
that.
have to find a lot of money,
But
it's,
if people haven't paid their taxes and there's no money in the school's bank account or the town's bank account, you have to have money to pay your bills while you're waiting for people to pay your taxes and build your account back up.
Bear in mind, we get the bulk of our funds.
Overdraft the picture.
In October and April.
Right. So when the tax bills come out, I know I'm gonna get a tax bill, I've got a savings account, I put money in, and when my tax bill comes, I pay it the day I get it, or at least that week. Most people don't do that. Most people wait until the very day before it's late.
That's right, I get the interest myself.
There you go.
But I get
See
your
what I
point.
mean?
All right, let's go ahead and do, the departments that are here tonight. Let me start with Ted, with Public Works and Transfer Station. Does anybody have any questions first? Because no, then he doesn't need to come on. And I don't think anything's changed since the last time, right, on this one?
New trash truck, right? Oh.
Did they have a happy dance? Your truck showed up, did everybody have a happy dance?
Yeah, but, from check engine light, turn it around and went back.
They delivered it and had to take it right back, and they didn't get a chance to
Oh,
go.
we got that now, and it is getting ready to get on the road.
Oh, you talking about it, don't you? I think you should just provide something.
And that was the whole reason behind it, you have to spare it.
Any questions for Ted on Public Works or Transfer Station?
So has anything changed since you talked to us last time?
No, all stayed the same.
I did give you the update right on with the one, so you should have one that says on the second page that we increased the salt line because you got. Yeah.
On which page?
Not seeing it.
Oh, it's the first page. What should it be?
So if you look at the second page, it should say it was amended on 2/22.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So as long as it's second page, down at the bottom, you don't have it in there.
But I might have it. Oh, I got it.
Where did you see amended? On the second page.
No, you're on capital budget.
I'm sorry. Never mind. I didn't read it.
Yeah. Says amended 2/22/24, and then right under that, reduced trash
Yep, I got
payment by 3,000.
Yeah, I reduced the track, but we used the salt line, because it was salt and sand line, because I got a little heavy handed on the eraser.
Which one is this song?
That's on the first page, 5008 and 5009.
All right, no questions, well, move on.
You're free to go. Yeah. You're free to go. Just don't go too far.
Don't leave the state.
Rob is also here. Aaron is waiting on coming to you next, just heads up.
And then you should have an updated wastewater. The second page should say amended 2/22/24, and that just corrected a couple of errors from an earlier. So that's 981,543.
Anything else that's changed since last time?
I don't think so. So we took that IT stuff. So the web hosting thing, I don't know. We took that out, we added 6,000 if you requested. So,
I didn't live here. That's why.
She doesn't have her.
I don't have the amended because I have this. I wrote it.
okay.
All right, any questions for Rob?
Anything you need to share with us, anything changed, anything on second thought?
I've been waiting with bated breath for my estimates on the roof of the one building that had been peeled back. And I had invited 6 roofing companies out, 3 showed up, and all 3 of them said they would get me my estimates this week. So, but we do have a budget line item, and I have hardly used much in it the past couple of years, which is $30,000 for buildings. And I have a feeling I might be using a big chunk of that or all of it for a whole roof.
Hopefully insurance will pay for it.
Okay.
So
But I haven't
we're
gotten
installing it
that.
upside down?
Well, that could be an issue, but totally okay for it.
So does insurance pay a percentage or,
Yeah, we have a couple, I can't tell you, I think it's $500 I want to say.
oh, that's really low.
I don't think it's much.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that.
And just in passing, they re-upped the berm of their Ted's people, who were awesome. Reinforced the berm for whatever's coming Sunday, Monday.
Is that the burrito?
The burrito?
Yes, and
Okay,
it's been
yeah.
rewrapped.
I think we're gonna have
The burrito.
Well, I just called it that one day and it's,
I just like it, so it's just taken off of
It's
it.
a thing now.
But anyway, we're very grateful for what they did because they saved the plant from being inundated. I mean, it could have been hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in pump damage and electronics and stuff. So we beefed it up again and hopefully that holds the tide back and stuff.
So we have another big time Sunday?
We have a big time Sunday, but
Sunday, Monday, I'm not sure, it might be during the day, Monday or something. But they said it would be over 12 feet, and the last one was 12.3.
Oh, for heaven's sake, yeah.
we're not supposed to have the wind drive hole like we did the last
Yeah.
time. so-
That's not ours.
So anyway, we're prepared.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
All right, Aaron Bean, are you there?
Yes.
All right.
They don't bark the entire time.
Hi, Pittman.
All right, so EMS. Anything new since last time?
Again, that was you should have an updated one that removed $20,000 for, the structural maintenance contract. Because we shifted that into this year's budget.
Excellent. Any questions for Aaron? Okay. If not, I guess you're all set. Thank you. And Dwayne, are you still there?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Any changes since last time?
No.
I did have a question for Dwayne about the programs at the rec, because we just, Dwayne, you probably heard us having a discussion about the increase, the rate of increase at the Parks and Rec department. So, I was wondering if you had ever done a cost analysis on, the newer programs that you've added, and what percentage of that is actually being covered by, fees, and what percentage is being subsidized by the town?
If we have a new program, we try to do all the cost analysis to make sure that the fees cover the programs.
Okay, and if they don't cover them the first year, do you adjust the fees for the following years?
I will try a program until, for the time period that it needs to, to try to establish it. If it doesn't seem feasible, then we cancel it, or we just do away with it, try something different.
Okay, good, you're on it then. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Dwayne?
Well, it's the only question anybody asked me about Parks and Rec. Somebody else asked me that, so I'm like, well, I don't know.
That is exactly right.
Okay. Thank you, Dwayne. You're all set.
I'm all set. I would like to clarify that the increase is in taxation. Yes, there is an increase in the total budget, but if the revenue does not come in, as a department head, I cannot just spend that money consciously as a taxpayer myself. So I need to have the revenue to actually expend the budget. So I hope that people understand that.
And I will say that, Dwayne's revenue is running a little behind this year. But we do expect that to pick up in the spring. However, he is well under budget this year. So what he's saying, he's actually doing. Revenue is not there. He's quite far under budget actually for where we're at in the budget year. So he's holding to his word.
Yeah, good job, Dwayne.
I would just clarify that, we don't get that money back as taxpayers. It goes into the unallocated
It goes back into
fund
the fund
budget,
balance,
which
we
can
can then use next year to offset.
future years, so we get it back in spending in future years. But, if we're allocating a full amount and we don't spend it, it's still an allocated amount that came out of the taxpayers. The second thing is you was looking at about a 6%, or you were looking at about a 6% increase in revenue year over year last year, if I recall. And it looks like this year you're looking at, this coming year, a 10% increase. And if we're behind a little bit, now what's going to change? What's going to cause that increase in revenue? Because we haven't had a 10% year over year increase in revenue in the past.
So I don't think we're not really off. We're off on revenue, but not a lot compared to last year at this time period. But he gets a lot of his revenue in the late spring, when the summer camps and all that stuff start kicking in. We get all of that revenue in May and June. So I do fully expect that by the time June 30th rolls around, we'll be where we should be.
Which right now we're actually, if you've kept up with the monthly reports that I've sent to the selectmen, we actually are ahead of revenue compared to where we were at this time last year.
Okay, so basically you're saying it's normal seasonality where we are right now, but we are
Yes.
looking at a 10%, you're expecting 10% growth in revenue next year.
We are
Yes.
going to have the discussion, and Dwayne and I, we've already had the discussion that we are going to have to raise the rates.
Yeah,
Yes.
It has to happen.
well, that's what I was asking, is where that's gonna
We're
come
looking-
from. You're saying,
I'm looking at programs, activities, everything with an across the board adjustments in all of them. So,
okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No?
Can we, when we meet next time, can we have an estimate on what the tax rate increase might be with our budget, the school budget, county money coming in, paying the county?
All right, thank you, Dwayne.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, I know we talked about voting, is there any upside or downside to waiting until James is here to vote? In terms of, I don't want it to look like on the ballot that
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
voted
yeah,
against
right,
it just
right.
because they weren't here.
Yeah, 401. Yeah.
I don't want to delay things, but.
It would go in 4-0.
It would go in 4-0,
Because it's not really an abstention.
It's not, it's just an absence, right?
I think most people know there's 5 of us. I don't know, it was just the
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
It'd be 4-0-0.
Yeah,
So,
And I think that's a good point.
When did you get back?
I think he's here for the other days, I think this was the only
That's all the answer to that.
day, when we talked about the 13th and the 19th.
If you're going to vote on all of these on the 19th, which shouldn't take a long time, but it will make for a longer meeting if we do it on a regular board meeting.
I've looked at these upside down, backwards and everything. I can't find a place to cut. If you, just take as an example, if you cut paving, say we're not gonna do any paving this year. Next year, forgetting about inflation, you're gonna pay more because there's more damage done to the roads. Not only that, now you've put off next year's to the year after that. And you're gonna run into the same thing, that they're gonna be in worse condition.
And we do have some of these roads that if we don't get to them now, we're gonna actually do a complete rehab on them, which is gonna cost you probably 3 times what it would cost right now, so. Again, I'll reiterate, it seems it's a lot of money, I don't like it myself, but we are getting caught up on this, and eventually this will level off.
I mean, I think the
I
town,
don't wanna say it's because it's recorded, it's gonna come back and bite me somewhere.
All right, let's go into community organizations. We haven't talked about that. So, a couple things. One question obviously is whether we want to approve what's there. The next question is, do we want to approve anyone else, or an increased rate, any of the others, / do we keep all the ones that are there, so.
I'd like to make a motion, we don't take anyone else on that we haven't already done.
Really, we actually need a vote for that. You want us to vote?
Well, they're asking, what are you gonna do with them? They're asking for money, what are you gonna do?
We just don't put them in.
Just don't put them in.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
you just vote no. Yeah, so you're just
Well,
asking us to.
no, you
Not
don't
even
need to
vote.
vote anything,
Yeah.
we can either agree or not to.
Yeah, I think we should not take anyone on that we haven't already taken care of in the past.
Okay,
So right now, that would be, LCTV, Camp Susan, and, Maine Public Radio and Television.
and Kennebec.
How much did we receive for LCTV? From the state?
From the state,
No.
you don't.
The franchise fees.
Franchise fees do not come.
I'm sorry, not this
Yeah, they don't come from that.
Franchise fees, the town gets that because we have given a franchise to,
Spectrum. It comes from
Spectrum, it comes from Spectrum. We've given a franchise to Spectrum saying, we're gonna let you come in and sell, the internet here, we're not gonna let anybody else have it, you have the franchise on the whole town. So that's what that is, that does not belong to the TV.
So Larry likes to argue that those franchise fees should come to the LCTV, but we're free to spend it however we want.
I'm also not aware that they've done anything that they said they were going to do to better serve Wiscasset from last year. They said they were gonna come do these meetings,
Yep.
they never followed through on that, they said they were gonna,
Games.
games, and I'm not,
There's some-
at least I'm on their email list, and I haven't seen any Wiscasset ones on there. So,
Thank you.
for me, that was an important piece, that we were gonna give them.
Would be nice to see the games.
Yeah. I remember watching them on.
Then I guess if you're gonna go with that premise, that's fine. We do still have the request for Safe Phillips to up their food pantry from 1,000 to 3,000.
Okay, so the town currently gives 2 food pantries,
$1,000
$1,000 each. So what's the other food pantry?
Saint, the Nazarene,
Across from the rec center.
yeah.
So I just have to say, if you're gonna increase one food pantry, you should be increasing both. But tripling the amount to one food pantry doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, they don't have as many, they're not serving as many, this beginning is.
Mhm.
And, there's an increase between just January and February this year, it is,
I know,
yeah. I don't know about the Nazarenes. I
Yeah, I
don't know if they've got, I don't know how often we're open, I don't know about what they purchase.
well, I don't know about this year, but I've known from historically.
I get what you're saying, but also they aren't requesting more.
Right.
They're not what?
They're not requesting more, so,
Right.
St. Philip's does a lot of good work. Yeah. At the Rod and Gun Club, we used to give them $600 a year, a couple of years ago, we raised it to 1,000. We kept that.
yeah, I would like Jess to read this.
Wait, wait. Do we know that all of these other ones, they're not huge amounts of money, but Waldo County, Cap, Spectrum Generations, et cetera. Are people in Wiscasset using them? I mean,
Yeah.
these are all getting
So,
used, right?
Anytime, if you'd love to come in, my file folder's this thick.
I don't want to do that. I just want to sit here and ask you
I make
questions.
them submit, I make them submit a form every year.
Yep.
Showing the benefit to the Wiscasset taxpayers, how many people they serve.
Yep,
They send me their budget, so I can make sure they're not.
taking us for a
Yeah,
ride. So
taking us for a
your
ride.
analysis based on that is that this is all getting used, probably getting more value out of it than we're putting into it?
In some cases, yes.
Yeah.
Near the library.
I think I just would like to say that the lady who runs the library is doing an excellent job.
I'm hearing things.
You.
You can say that, but you still have to pay for that.
I'm a little scared of her, so I'm just trying to get it out there.
I don't know, people at work call it, say it's the fear of Cana, and I don't know what that is.
All right, so it sounds like we're on board with not adding any new folks, and then before we vote, we'll just need to determine whether we want to increase food pantry line or not.
Yeah.
Any other questions on community work? Okay. All right, are there any others that have questions for Dennis on or wanted to discuss?
I just, so the only, organizations that have their full submission in here are the ones that have never asked before.
Oh, no, Camp Susan and behavioral health, I have it. I didn't put it in here because it is a lot of paper.
Right, right,
But
okay.
yes, I do have the quote.
So, all right, so anybody who's already been funded is not in here now. So like the libraries isn't in here.
Right, but I do have them on file. I mean, everybody every year has to send in the same paperwork,
Right,
and I do have them on file.
yeah.
I just don't print them all, and like I said,
cursed you.
anybody can come in and.
I cursed you all on the first year I had to do that, just so you know. If you had a bad year, it was me. That was not fun. But it does, I don't know if the budget committee got the copy I mailed to them,
Yes.
mailed to you all, okay.
Alright. Any others you wanna discuss tonight, we can, so, the other thing is, are we going to use the 13th or not?
Oh, I would say,
We had held the 13th. Well, but do we have anything else to do besides
vote,
vote?
why couldn't we just vote?
Right, well, we talked about doing that on the 19th, at our already scheduled meeting.
So, I mean, my preference would be to do it on the 13th, to give us a little time if something does
Why
pop
just-
up that we need to make some
Adjustment.
adjustments on. Because trying to do it on the 19th is starting to come close on getting the stuff to.
Well, I just think getting data entry in from the town clerk's
Yes.
side, it's really hard for her to get everything dumped on her all in one week and have to get it all put together.
13,
So,
Next week.
In town meeting, the 11th.
We're gonna meet on the 11th at 4 o'clock tonight.
oh,
And so we'll hopefully get enough people to come and we'll bang out the vote, get it to you as
I'll
soon
be
as we
around
can.
anyway, so.
Okay, so we will plan to meet on the 13th at 6 and start voting both to put the items on the ballot, and as you recall, we then vote on our recommendation. So 2 separate things.
on the 13th,
And y'all will be with us.
you will be
Yeah,
at
we'll come.
6.
Right.
That just gives a little time to get that done, without having to stress over it.
That,
Anybody need updated spreadsheets?
Are you over
right, are we good? All right, I will declare us adjourned at 7:35.